Hey, what's up, you guys? It's Shacey Bender. I'm Cheyenne.
And I'm Sierra, and welcome back to this week's video.
I'm really curious as to how this video is gonna go.
Yeah, I don't really know in what direction this is gonna end up.
Especially
going.
because I have a headache. I'm overheated with like the ring light, and it's just hot now because it's summer. I hate it. And my skin is. Everything's wrong. Literally everything sucks.
What a great tie-in.
Just like the show we're going to be talking about called Everything Sucks. Not that the show actually sucks. It's actually quite good.
It's quite the opposite of sucking. We just rewatched this show for like the 19th time recently, and we just decided that we need to talk about this show because it's one of the best shows I've ever watched on Netflix.
And of course, it did not get renewed. I'm just salty about it. Let's get into it. We really want to talk about what was so good about this show that kind of set it apart from other shows, because there's not a lot of, honestly, I don't think there's a lot of good shows right now.
Mm-mm.
It's like difficult to find shows that are good and are actually made currently.
Yeah, because all of them are cringy, horrible reboots made by 50-year-olds pretending to relate to Gen Z people with their writing. And it's just like, oh, the internet.
But at least this show takes place in the 90s, so although the internet was used like once in the show with like the slow, very slow loading web page, it will not be discussed.
Okay, I'm just going to refer to our notes. We always have our notes off to the side for all of these videos. You guys know that our videos are scripted. Don't judge me for me not memorizing pages and pages of things to say.
I think there's 13 pages.
Yeah. So basically, the show Everything Sucks revolves around a group of teenagers in 1996 as they navigate high school. They deal with issues such as like familial or parental problems, dating, sexuality, while they try to reach their ultimate goal of making a movie to make amends between the AV club and the drama club, because one of the characters that was in the AV club pulled the fire alarm, which made all of the set pieces for the drama club's production to get wet and all ruined and fall apart.
I mean, honestly, I'm just really glad that this show is set in the 90s, or else I feel like any issues they cover would mean nothing.
Yeah.
Literally, why does everything mean nothing anymore?
I know. I don't know. It's like, nothing is important anymore and it sucks. Everything sucks.
Wow, I didn't know we were gonna get so much use out of that. Now that we talked about what the show is even about, let's dive into the characters whom I love. I think it's a really good group of characters, you know?
100%.
So first we're gonna start with our, I would say main character.
Yeah, our protagonist. He's shown the most in the show.
Luke O'Neill.
Banana slug.
He's kind of just an average guy. Very awkward, though. But, you know, he's a likable protagonist, and he has a lot of internal struggles, especially in regards to his relationship with his dad, who is not present in his life. And because of his age and what can be assumed for most freshmen in high school, he's a bit naive, which can lead to him lashing out or taking things too far when he doesn't know how to handle his stress, because he has a lot going on. He really does. He's a very creative, determined person and works hard to achieve things that he cares about.
So next up, we have Kate Messner.
I think I'm a lesbian.
She is a quiet person and likes to keep to herself. She's known to be like a really calm character. She's very like rational and collected, like calm and collected. And she comes up with a lot of the ideas and she gets them out of a lot of things in regards to the plot. I think a lot of bad things would have happened to the main friend group if she wasn't there.
I mean, even if her solutions aren't the best, it still helps, because honestly, a lot of the situations they get into, there's no good way of getting out of it. Like when they were being tortured by the drama club and Luke was forced to drink so much alcohol.
Yeah.
But, you know, they came up with their idea of their movie and tried to figure things out.
She's also really concerned with the well-being of other people, especially her dad. I think she cares a lot about her dad, especially after her mom's passing.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think a lot of it stems from her mom's passing, you know, making sure that her dad is okay. You know, I think she's just afraid of, you know, people feeling like they're in, like, that dark of a place in their lives. Ken Messner.
Hello, it's Ken.
Kate's dad. Annoying.
Sherry O'Neill.
Ken, hey!
Luke's mother. Ken made her annoying. That's all we have to say.
McQuaid.
Rain on your wedding day?
I just had a really big crush on him a few years ago.
Yeah, around the time that the show came out.
He is known for being a very pessimistic person and is closed off to people that aren't his friends. He thinks things through logically, like, in fact, like that kind of vibe. Criminal Minds. He's practically the embodiment of a nerdy freshman stereotype. His character, like, every time we watched the show, we were like, this was us when we entered high school.
Yeah, this was definitely us years ago. We were just very pessimistic and angry at the world. I was just so done with everything. I thought things through so logically.
No, because when McQuaid talks about the song, like, isn't it ironic? And he says, like, well, they're morons and they deserve each other. I felt that. I definitely would have said that. I think I would say it now.
Next up, we have Tyler.
It's an honest-to-God miracle cream.
He's not in the show a lot. Like, he is in the show a lot, but he doesn't have anything major in regards to plot, because he's more so the comic relief character, and he seems pretty happy all the time, and that's why you know there's just a turning point in the show when he starts being miserable all the time. You know, he's pretty optimistic for high school, kind of like Luke, but I think even more so.
Yeah, he's always excited. I don't know if he's considered like a fan favorite character, but he's definitely one of my favorites.
Yeah.
And he's really enjoyable to watch while on screen. He really brought something to the table.
Also, another character that we will be talking about in a bit, Oliver, eventually starts seeing Tyler as his protege, if you will.
Emmeline,
'Tis true.
a complete drama freak.
And when we say freak, we're not saying that there's anything wrong with being in drama club. I mean, I love it. I love drama in theater. It's just she acts really crazy.
Like, she doesn't live in reality half the time. She loves acting so much that if she can perform a scene, like, in school in front of everybody, like, regardless of the content of it, the time or place, she will be doing that. You know what? She acts like even her normal conversations are a scene. She's cruel to other people when they get in her way and is very manipulative. Eventually she does have a character arc and shifts to being more of a understanding and kind person, but yet she's attention seeking and still jealous, even with that turnaround.
And finally, we have Oliver, the guy we mentioned before.
Emmeline!
He is Emmeline's boyfriend slash ex-boyfriend, depending on where you're at in the show. He also happens to be into drama and acting. Him and Emmeline are the stars of the school when it comes to theater.
It kind of reminds me if Beck and Jade from Victorious were kind of a lot weirder, but I think that's why I love seeing them on screen so much. Like, the relationship is so toxic, but I love watching it.
He is very self-sufficient. He really only cares about himself to a certain extent and his dreams of being a famous actor. He's pretty eccentric, but, you know, he seems like he's pretty popular in the school anyway. And although he's pretty self-centered, he's also kind of sensitive. And he is a Jim Carrey stan. I bet, like, a couple years later, the Jim Carrey Grinch was his favorite movie.
Now that we have the characters and what the show is basically about out of the way, let's talk about the really good elements of this show. One thing that it is really good at is encapsulating the teen experience.
I remember when this show came out, I found it so relatable because even though it's a show set in the 90s, it perfectly encapsulates the American public high school experience. It genuinely doesn't matter if you went to high school in the 90s or if you even know anything about the 90s. This show is just relatable to any person who has been in high school or is entering high school or is in high school, just in general.
That's one thing I love about this show is that they still manage to make the characters relatable and, you know, just like a teenager, like a normal teenager, while also being able to pull off being over the top and having these like exaggerated characters like Emmeline and Oliver. Because then there's also other characters like Kate who are more normal, like, you know.
I don't know. These teen characters they're so realistic. They have the most awkward conversations I've ever heard, but they're so realistic. Like, this is the stuff you would hear in your average American high school.
And that comes with the stupid conversations as well. And I'd also like to point out that the awkwardness makes things so much more funny. Like, they're really good with coming up with comedic dialogue.
I love the way that they portray the naivety, sorry, that's so hard to pronounce, I hate English, and youthfulness that the characters have by every decision they make, the way they talk, the things they do, and the way that they think. They just come up with these stupid ways of going about things that a teenager would definitely do. Even though it's kind of ridiculous, it's nothing unbelievable because it is something that a teenager really would do. An example of this would be the way that Luke asks out Kate. It's the most freshman high school thing I've ever seen, like making a music video to her favorite song and then asking her out in the video at the end.
Kate Messner, will you go out with me?
It goes on the school news and everybody sees it.
And I just love how that reactions are accurate. Even though I thought, the editing was actually pretty good. Like, I think it was impressive for him recreating a whole music video, but everyone was like, what was that? I think that that is something that someone who is young would come up with so they don't have to ask the person directly. Another thing that I think demonstrates this idea of like portraying youthfulness is just the fact that they came up with this movie. It's so random. It's like sci-fi romance. It's all over the place, but they just came up with it on the spot. It's like, again, it's not something so complex and like really good. It's just something believable. Like, it's not that amazing that it would like blow you out of the water. Blow you oh my god. I'm just picturing myself flying. No, but it's not so amazing that you could tell like an adult wrote it.
Something that they handle really well in this series is trying to create something realistic about teenagers' sexuality. Unlike shows like Riverdale, they just handled this really well, especially with being queer or LGBTQ. Kate is genuinely the most realistic lesbian teenager character I've ever seen on television.
Yeah, because she's just a normal person. You know, she's an awkward teenager. She doesn't talk to a lot of people. I think that she was like the perfect character to choose to present this topic.
I really love how they showed her trying to reinvent herself and become more of who she really is inside or who she wants to be as she becomes more comfortable with her sexuality. An example of this would be how she changes all of the posters and everything in her room. Ryder Strong gets ripped off the wall.
I was just about to say that because every time I see that that scene, that is the first thing that I say. I'm like, Sean Hunter, he's gone. Which is funny because we're actually watching Boy Meets World right now. Why are we consuming 90s content? Like, whether it's from the 90s or about the 90s.
And then she gets a nose piercing and everything. Like, I think that's a very good way of showing her growth.
Let's move on to a different topic as to why this show is amazing, which is my favorite part of the show and why I like watching it a lot, is its clever and unique comedy. This show, what I admire it for is it's really good at judging the level of comedy for each scene. They can tackle being very exaggerated and over the top, but also being subtle with just like throwing little things in the background, people's expressions, or just something you might not even catch with dialogue. And it's really great because either way, the jokes are just as funny as the other, whether it's really exaggerated or subtle. Like, I always find myself laughing a lot. A good example of this is the drama club performances, which is so exaggerated versus just obviously their casual dialogue.
Their comedy is also very camp. It's very campy, and they say things that are very weird, whether they're 90s references or they're just really odd, bizarre, off the wall things that kind of come out of nowhere. For example, when Emmeline steps on Oliver's glasses or his sunglasses, and Oliver says, "My grandma got me those," and she has diabetes.
I love the way he delivers that line. Again, it's coming in with that sensitivity from him, but also, like, he's just, like, so mad about it.
We're done, alright?
And she just walks away, flipping him off. It's just really quirky. Just so weird. Like letting the ranger at Dominguez Rocks join their movie because they didn't have like a permit to be filming there.
The watermelon head explosion. No, it's just like, again, I'm like, that's supposed to be McQuaid's face. But it's just so round and disproportionate. I swear the nose was just like a line that went like that. And although I genuinely do think that the comedy they have in their dialogue is smart, I think that me personally, I might find it even more quirky with references to the 90s as a person who did not live through the 90s. I think it's really important that they are able to make me, as a person who didn't live through that, laugh, even if I don't understand the references. Like, it's good enough that it's funny, regardless of whether I know exactly what they're talking about.
Because it's weird, because sometimes I know what they're talking about, and other times I don't, because when you're born in the 2000s, you have this weird gray area where they were just coming out of the 90s.
Yeah.
So I understood some of the stuff, but then I didn't get some of the other jokes or references to the 90s. So the next thing that we want to talk about, which is another topic that the show dealt with, is parental struggles.
This covers the parents actually struggling, like what they struggle with, and, you know, how the children in the show struggle with their relationships with their parents.
First things first, we just want to state our personal opinions on Sherry and Ken's relationship. We think it's totally inappropriate, honestly, because for all they knew, their children were dating each other, and then they decided to date behind their backs. I think it's screwed up, and I agree with Luke.
I think that the way that the parents and like the adults in the show go about things like accurately demonstrates how some parents struggle between doing what is best for their children and their dating lives. It's not good. Even though they were under the impression that their children were dating, they completely disregarded that fact, as if since Kate and Luke are just teenagers, that their relationship doesn't matter as much as theirs since they are adults.
And although their relationship was bound to not last because it's like a high school relationship, I don't think it matters because...
Like, where's the integrity?
Yeah, it still should have been taken seriously, and they shouldn't have have dated.
Just out of respect for their kids. It's kind of like brushing off their kids' lives, you know, as if, oh, well, what you're going through right now doesn't matter. I'm an adult, so the things that I'm feeling are real.
Yeah.
Now, of course, in the show, the parents being romantically and sexually involved with each other works out in Kate's favor, since she doesn't actually like Luke because she's lesbian. But Luke's feelings are being messed with in this whole thing. I remember it was so traumatizing when he walked in on Sherry and Ken
doing stuff.
and he was just like, why, first of all, why do you think it's okay to do that with my principal?
Yeah,
And-
that's another thing. Kate's dad is the principal of the high school.
And also, why are you doing this with my girlfriend's dad? Now, of course, again, Kate doesn't actually like Luke because she's a lesbian, but still. Again, it's the fact that the parents are under the impression that their kids are dating.
Even if by at certain points their relationship was fake. It doesn't even matter. It's still screwed up. They are just so immature and I can't stand it. It just sucks because I really liked Sherry's character at the beginning of the show. But again, had made her annoying.
Like, there's so many examples of them being so immature. Smoking confiscated drugs. He is the principal, so he confiscated drugs off of somebody, and yet he's like making the decision, well, I could use it.
Because here's the thing, they're adults, they can do whatever they want. If they want to use drugs, that's their choice. But what are their kids doing? Where are they? This is like during a school day, isn't it?
Yeah, and they literally act like teenagers. They TP'd Ken's ex's house, and they also Ken used his authority, like, as principal to his advantage when they had the munchies after doing the drugs
He had all the keys
to the school. So they're like, oh yeah, like, let's get all the food, let's go swimming in the swimming pool. I can't ever root for this couple because of them making these decisions when they're supposed to be responsible adults setting a good example for their children.
Let us know what your opinions are about them because I know other people might have a different opinion, and I'm not completely a hater. I'm just saying that it seems icky to me, and I would hate it if this happened to me if I was like one of their children or something.
And even though, of course, I do consider Sherry and Ken dating a complete betrayal of their children, considering they thought that their children were dating each other, I do want to shed some light, like, you know, something positive about all of this is that I do enjoy the positive relationships they seem to have with their children. Ken tries to not overstep Kate's boundaries when she sets them. When she states what she is comfortable and uncomfortable with, he respects it and tries to do what he can to make sure that those boundaries are kept.
And the relationship that Sherry and Luke have is very wholesome and sweet. Sherry tries to be a friend to Luke and not try to intimidate him as the adult in their parent-child relationship.
It's really nice to see scenes where Luke is just so comfortable with talking about, like, literally anything with his mom. It's refreshing to see because you don't see that a lot in TV shows. It really is a positive thing. I know that a lot of people have the idea that you're supposed to be their parent, not their friend. I actually know a lot of people who have that idea. But there's no reason that you can't be both and, you know, support your children, because then, you know, they will want to talk to you more about things. Because I hate how a lot of parents say things like, I don't understand why they won't share their lives with me and like tell me what's going on, but it's because you're not being a friend to them. They only see you as like this authority figure.
Yeah, like they don't see you as a person to talk to or anything because they don't trust you like they trust their friends. The next topic we're going to be talking about is the relationships in the show.
So maybe if you didn't quite understand what we were talking about before as far as Luke and Kate go, we'll be explaining it here. Or maybe you haven't seen the show in a while and you kind of need a refresher. I mean, because I don't really know why you would be on this video if you haven't seen the show before, but maybe you're just interested. I don't know. So we're just going to go through all the relationships and explain what they were.
Yeah. First, of course, we have Luke and Kate. It's kind of complicated to explain because their relationship went from real to fake But it's hard to even say whether their relationship was 100% real because it was always one-sided because Kate never had feelings for Luke. It kind of seemed like she said yes to him asking her out because his whole thing with asking her out was so public, and I think she was scared and she didn't know what else to say. So, this unrequited love comes from Luke, who has a crush on Kate and wants to be in a real relationship with her. So, he makes his Wonderwall music video for her, and then she says yes to being in a relationship with him on the school news, and she looks petrified. Even her dad, the principal, was watching this whole thing go down. Very awkward.
I mean, obviously Wonderwall is already a pretty iconic song, but it will become even more iconic too if you watch this show. It actually made me kind of become obsessed with this song and what came along with it.
But eventually, after Kate confesses that she thinks she's a lesbian to Luke, he settles for a fake relationship with her for the sake of both their friendship and to keep her secret of being a lesbian from getting out.
But either way, his feelings for her continue. They continue on even into the fake relationship, which causes like a lot of problems for the two. They get in a lot of fights.
Yeah.
It was a fake date.
Date, fake date. What's the difference, really?
The way he acted towards her was not right because he knew this was a fake relationship, but he was like, real date, fake date, it doesn't matter.
When it really does matter to her because she's not even attracted to you. She is exploring her sexuality and he's just supposed to be helping her. He offered to help her with this whole thing, and he was like, well, no one will think that you're lesbian if you're dating me. You know, although I do think that Luke is genuinely a good person and would look out for Kate, there is a part of him like doing that is coming from the fact that he wants to be in a relationship with her. So even if it's a fake relationship, he can act like in his mind that it is real.
And he's just so in love with the idea of her, in love with the idea of having a girlfriend, that he's willing to be in a fake relationship just so he can feel like he has a girlfriend.
I like you.
No, you don't. You like the idea of me. You like the idea of having a girlfriend.
Yeah, because he doesn't actually know her. She really is right when she says that he's in love with the idea of her because he doesn't know her romantically, because even though they're in this fake relationship, she likes women. So the only way that she would be able to actually be herself in a romantic relationship like that is with a woman.
Now we're going to talk about Kate and Emmeline. This is also a very complicated relationship. But from the very first episode, you can see Kate kind of crushing on Emmeline from afar, or at least she has some sort of fascination with her. However, Emmeline starts bullying Kate and spreading rumors about her being a lesbian. A slur for lesbians was written on Kate's locker, assuming that either someone that heard the rumor wrote it on there, or maybe even Emmeline did it.
Yeah, because I always want to specify this when people are talking about this relationship. It is not enemies to lovers. It is bully victim to lovers.
Yeah, so this needs to be handled with care when talking about it. I especially know that because I have been bullied in the past, and along with spreading the information about Kate being a lesbian, she also was saying that Kate touched her in the locker room, which was not true.
Now, Emmeline probably did this because of her own internalized homophobia and to get Oliver's attention. Like, when Oliver found out about this rumor, he was asking her, like, what happened, and she acted like, again, she was in another scene and started acting.
Yeah, and being overdramatic so the whole school could hear it.
The first thing she says, "'Tis true."
They started to get to know each other better once they started filming the movie. It's just weird because Emmeline, when her and Kate were around other people, she was really mean to her. But then when they were together in private, Emmeline was always nice to her. But they got to know each other better, and Emmeline apologized for everything that she did, and they eventually start dating.
Because what I like about the way that this was dealt with is that it was a genuine apology. In a lot of other shows, like, I feel like just because they end up dating or find out that they're attracted to each other, they kind of just disregard everything that they did, and the person who was, like, affected never actually gets a real apology.
Yeah, I remember when I watched this show for the first time, I really hated the fact that Emmeline and Kate started dating, just because as a person who has been bullied a lot myself in school, and I have a lot of trauma from it, I definitely wouldn't want to date someone that bullied me, especially if they bullied me about my sexuality, because I am asexual, and if someone was making fun of me for being asexual and saying I'm an alien, I'm heartless, and I'm a freak, you know, I wouldn't really want to even see that person ever again. But after watching the show so many times, I realized the way that they dealt with it was really good, and I don't think they could have done it any better.
And I also realized from this show that I have no gaydar because I had to watch the show so many times, because the first time I didn't even recognize that Kate had a crush on her or was fascinated by her at all. I thought that she was kind of just like watching their weird cafeteria lunchroom performance when she was actually just like staring at her. I don't know what is wrong with me and how I was just like, no, there's nothing going on at all.
Yeah, but Emmeline was genuinely sorry, and I appreciate that so much. She really, you know, changed and became a better person, as well as accepted herself as being bisexual and got rid of all that internalized homophobia by being friends with Kate, and I think that was really well done.
Also, we just thought we should say this, not to excuse Emmeline's past action at all, just because she apologized and changed, because I don't really believe in, like, forgive and forget. You why should you forget? You know what I mean?
You could still, you know, remember and be cautious about someone.
Like setting a boundary
Yeah.
based on what they have done in the past. We're just saying that since they decided to go in the direction that they did with the plot of the show and have them date, it was kind of just like best case scenario. Because again, I don't know why you would want to date your bully.
But this is television, and they just do that kind of stuff for plot.
The drama, I guess. We're back to talking about Sherry and Ken. I honestly want to be done with them because they really irritate me. What we're about to say are the only positive things we can say because of the parental struggles section of this video.
If they weren't who they were, and it wasn't the situation that they were in, this relationship would have been perfectly okay. Because there's obviously nothing wrong with them exploring dating again as single parents, and it would be interesting if it didn't feel so icky.
I do think it is so weird how immaturely they go about their relationship, but Sierra brought this fact up to me and I thought it was so insightful. It seems like a lot of their immaturity seems to stem from the fact that they were dating for the first time all over again after, you know, their previous marriages.
It's like they're dating for the first time all over again, which led them to acting like kids.
Yeah, let's leave it at that.
Next, we have Emmeline and Oliver. They're a pretty big relationship in the show. I mean, we've talked about them a lot already. Their relationship is so toxic. It's actually disgusting. But it's really funny to see their awful, overdramatic relationship crumble and break apart into pieces. Oliver, again, really focused on his acting career to the point that he was perfectly okay with leaving his girlfriend behind and never coming back and losing contact with her.
It's so ridiculous, his mindset, that it's so funny to watch. I'm sorry, but it's like laughable. And that's why, like, even though like what he has done is honestly like not good, it kind of made me stan Oliver. Like, I love when he's on screen because he's very entertaining.
I don't know, at some point he just stopped caring about Emmeline, but it's not all of Oliver's fault because Emmeline felt Oliver slipping away from her. She started to treat their relationship like they were in a play, which is really weird. Like, she pretended like like they were acting on stage in normal conversations. Like she said before, when he asked her about what was going on, she said, "'Tis true," and started acting out a whole entire scene. But she did it because she wanted his attention. That's the reason why she did anything that she did, and that's the reason why she was so mean to other people, even, just to get his attention. You know, she would start talking like Shakespeare, and she stopped acting like a person. It's like anytime Oliver tried to have a real conversation with her, she would immediately go into acting mode like she's Miranda from The Tempest. I mean,
Are people gonna get that reference?
I'm a Shakespeare stan.
So the last relationship we have to cover isn't actually a relationship, but it's still worth mentioning. So we have McQuaid and Emmeline. I love how like all these relationships, it's like Emmeline and Kate just keep coming up over and over
Yeah.
again with different people. Like Emmeline came up with 3 people. So it's just another example of a guy mistaking a girl's friendliness as flirtation. Here's the thing, although I don't think this is entirely his fault, like most of the time I'm like, come on, McQuaid. But he's just not experienced with relationships. Again, he's a freshman. I don't think it's entirely his fault because some things that Emmeline would say to him seemed odd to be just friendly. But from her point of view, she was just really trying to be his hype man, or hype woman, as Sierra wanted to correct me earlier.
Yeah, because she's not a man.
And the thing is, like, it made it worse because since he was already under the impression that she liked him, the comments she was making made it seem to him like she was actually like leading him on or something. When in reality, she was just trying to make him look better. I swear one time she like just randomly said in the hallway that he was like a good kisser or something.
Yeah, because they had to kiss in the movie. And she was just trying to hype him up and make him feel better about himself, but obviously that can be interpreted in multiple different ways.
Like
with her
he
saying
didn't
that.
like he didn't get that she's saying that to make other people want to date him, not that she wants to date him herself. You know, she was just trying to make him look better in front of other people because, I mean, people kind of viewed him as a loser. Now we're on the TV show Tings section of our notes.
Since we already discussed the comedy and dialogue of the show, we wanted to mention the things that enhance those things and make the show what it really is. We both love the way that this show is filmed. The only thing I can compare it to is like Modern Family, where they do this thing where they quickly pan but then like slowly zoom in on someone's face to get their reaction, and it's the funniest way of filming this kind of stuff. I love it. It's just so much dead silence with it. It's amazing.
It makes it so much more funny in those awkward or stressful moments. I also remember it's so funny because Kate does this thing where she's like she like squints a lot. They pan back to her and she just kind of looks confused.
Yeah.
Just being like, what?
The soundtrack is pretty effing good. They got some bangers, along with some pretty weird songs also mixed in that neither of us quite understand, but they always go with what's going on. All of the songs perfectly match the scenes and what they're going for.
Whether it's the vibe or the lyrics matching up what's going on and being very literal about it. My favorite example of this is, you know, after Kate's like, I think I'm a lesbian, the ending cover plays,
Yeah.
and it just goes, I'm dumb, she's a lesbian. Is that song like Pink Triangle by Weezer? I'm not sure. I tried to look it up before we did this video because I didn't really know
What the title of it was.
Yeah,
I couldn't remember. I don't know. Now we need to talk about the epic ending that this show has, and this is why it's very upsetting that they never got a second season. For context, since there were some things that we didn't really go too deep into earlier, since it wasn't really related, Luke's dad, again, who isn't present in Luke's life, is still alive and well. Unlike the situation that Kate is in, that leaves her being raised by only her father, where like Luke's dad just left and he's, you know, living his own life somewhere else.
Yeah, whereas Kate's mother is actually dead. She has passed away. And so I really like how there's like that comparison. Like you can see the difference between the two. And I think that that is something that is really interesting that the show does.
Luke's dad took off and left Luke and Sherry when Luke was really young. And when the group was filming their movie at Dominguez Rocks, Kate drives Luke to a Blockbuster because she found out that Luke's father actually works there. She found out from his roommate or something in the phone book. So Luke goes in there thinking, oh my gosh, I'm gonna reunite with my dad. And this was like very climactic because he had been watching these old tapes of his father talking about all of his opinions and ideas and things about his family. And he started to really...
He felt attached to it.
Yeah, he felt attached to his dad,
He was
even with him not being present in his life
yeah,
currently.
because he was kind of finding out who his dad was as a person.
But he leaves crying and miserable because his own father did not recognize him. And so he's just really embarrassed. So he storms off and he leaves the Blockbuster.
Like a blockbuster, blockbuster. So, in the final episode of the show, after the premiere of Luke's movie, Luke's father actually shows up at his door while Luke, Kate, Sherry, and Ken were spending time together. This obviously alludes to the idea that Luke's father did end up recognizing his son at the Blockbuster, but by the time he did, it was too late. Which is honestly crazy, because I think he figured it out because the school bus said boring high
school.
and
Yeah.
he knew that that's where they lived, and that's the high school that Luke went to.
That's just a crazy cliffhanger because it ends with him knocking on the door. And I don't even know what would have happened because by that point, Luke was so done with his father, thinking, oh my gosh, my own dad didn't even recognize me. I'm so embarrassed and he's an ass anyway. But he showed up at their door and Ken and Kate is there in their house. They're just chilling, having dinner, celebrating Luke and Kate's movie.
I mean, I don't even know what Sherry would have thought either, because she constantly talks about, like, you know, whenever it's brought up about him, Sherry's always like, oh, he's a terrible person, and kind of is glad that, you know, he's not in their life anymore because of what he did. You know, if he was that terrible that he would just get up and leave his wife and child, then, you know, it's kind of not worth having that type of person around. So our final thoughts.
I swear I've never watched a show so many times and then had a different opinion every single time I finished it.
It really makes me reflect on things so much, and you know, as I keep getting older and I keep rewatching this show, it makes me realize how different my opinions are. And for once, this last time we watched it, I was actually satisfied with the ending, which has never happened to me before. I was always just like, oh, Ken and Sherry, no, being so irritated about it because Kate wanted them to get back together, and I was like, no, this is so icky. I don't like it. It's so gross. But I was actually like, you know what? I get it this time.
And I kind of just came to terms with everything, except for the fact that the show didn't get a second season.
I think that that's pretty much it. We've went through every reason why we think that this show was amazing and so good for a more current show. I mean, I know it came out in 2018, but still, as far as, you know, television goes, I don't think anything nearly as good as that has come out since then.
It's so weird watching it year after year because I've seen the show so many times at this point, and I almost feel like I grew up with the show, and like in a weird way. Like when I watched it for the first time, I was entering high school, so I could relate to these kids, and now I am going to be graduating, so it's just kind of crazy how my perspective changed as I got older and as I, you know, watched the show and came back to it year after year.
Yeah, because I can still relate to the characters, but it's almost like a weird nostalgia thing by this point. Like, I remember how I was when I entered high school, type of thing. But it's just the fact, you know, we've watched it so many times, and it just shows how good the show is, that it's rewatchable and the content doesn't get old for me. And honestly, with everything we've talked about, it clearly shows how deserving it was of a second season, but we'll never get that. And by this point, I'm just kind of over it. Like, you know what I mean? I'm not like, please give us a second season. It's like, if it didn't happen then, I kind of don't want it now because
Yeah,
like,
it'd be weird.
if they even tried, it's like they are gonna look too old.
Yeah, and Sydney Sweeney is too busy with Euphoria.
So I guess that's it.
Also, I just realized this video, hopefully it comes out in Pride Month.
Oh my
It will
gosh,
be
if it
perfect.
doesn't, we're gonna try to edit this as much as possible and get it up as fast as possible. Also, trying to keep the quality good.
If you enjoyed this video, leave a comment down below. Tell us your thoughts about the show. Give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe if you want to see more videos like this and keep up with our content. We're trying so hard to upload. It's insane.
I know. Ugh.
These commentary videos are hard to make because it's like every video gets longer and it takes so much time to prepare because you gotta watch the show or the movie and then you gotta like write your thoughts on it. So.
It's good that we've watched the show so many times so I didn't have to think too hard when writing the script, but it still was difficult, even with that being the circumstance.
We have a gaming channel. A link to that will be in the description. For playing Super Mario Odyssey all over again. So go check that out if you want to see that. God bless you. Jesus loves you. Have an amazing day. Happy Pride Month. Hopefully this gets uploaded in June. And we'll see you guys next time. Bye.
I'm sorry, that bug is pissing me off.
Oh, you caught it. Awesome.
How did I do that? I am Spider-Man. I have the senses.
Suit up, swing through the city.